What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Hybrid Network and another look into Stephen King's It, exploring the different facets of the book and the original 1990 miniseries in order to better understand the intricacies of the story and its characters, while also preparing us for the new 2017 adaptation, set to come at us in September of this year. For the most part, the videos I've done have all focused on the book, explaining a lot of the more out there concepts prevalent within the story and just how much can actually make it to the big screen. So much so that I haven't really even touched the previous movie in any way, shape, or form. Starring Tim Curry, the original Stephen King's It was a television miniseries that aired in 1990 on ABC, following the plot of the book fairly closely while clocking in at around 4 hours in its entirety. To this day, the film still receives general praise, though probably the most respected aspect of the film is legendary actor Tim Curry's work as Pennywise the Dancing Clown, bringing with him an air of comedy and menace that he goes back and forth between. He was genuinely frightening and bordered on being downright hilarious at several points in the movie, which lines up with the book in several cases, but the question remains on everyone's minds: how is Bill Skarsgård going to portray the terrible entity in the new movie? We've seen a terrifying glance at the presence of Pennywise in the latest trailer for the movie, showing several eerie scenes involving the clown, most notably one involving a projector as Pennywise slowly materializes within the frame, his grinning face eyeing the children hungrily as they scream and stare in horror. Absolutely chilling. But more notable than that, we don't hear Pennywise actually speak. We hear Georgie giving his infamous phrase, "We all float down here," but it doesn't actually utter anything. And given the tone of the trailer, it had me wondering, what kind of Pennywise are we getting here? Because let's be honest, you go back and watch the old miniseries and Tim Curry's just having the time of his life in that clown suit, making Prince Albert jokes, contorting his face into a variety of looks, and just looking like he's on top of the world as he essentially laughs at the misfortune of others. But you see that new trailer, how for the most part everything seems silent, how dramatic the atmosphere is. Can you see this Pennywise cracking a joke or a pun? I think in a lot of ways this new Pennywise might be taking a little less of a role as a clown and just straight up owning that demonic presence. We see this Pennywise slowly rising from a pool of water. We see him constantly sporting that hideous grin in all of the promotional material. And I just get the feeling that he's not going to be an animated persona, but more of a silent, eerie figure. Whereas Tim Curry's Pennywise would be dancing on the side of a street or making wisecracks and waving at the kids after he's given them a scare, I can only imagine Skarsgård's version to just stare after them, unblinking, unmoving, and just smiling at their state of fear as he slowly ripens them up for feeding. I think there's two schools of thought here as well, and I'm not saying that one's any better than the other, and I think in fact we haven't seen too much of Skarsgård's Pennywise, so maybe this comparison is all moot, but in the more ambiguous and creepy tone that the most recent trailer has given us, I get the feeling that this might be a far different Pennywise that we'll be dealing with. He seems more monstrous, more aloof, and definitely a bit more frightening than Tim Curry's portrayal, with all due respect. But those might just be my thoughts. What are y'all's thoughts? What kind of Pennywise do you think we're getting in the new movie? How do you think it will compare to Tim Curry's portrayal of the ominous clown? And go ahead and give me a rough estimate of how many restless nights you'll be having after this film, because as someone who's terrified of clowns already, yeah, this is probably going to keep me up for a while. But thanks for watching, guys. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And be sure to stay subscribed to the Hybrid Network to stay all up to date on all of our videos as they come out. My name's Luke, and I'll catch you guys next time.